The Tao of Self-Confidence, Episode 52. Welcome to the Tao of Self-Confidence, where I share stories of amazing women finding their inner journey to self-confidence 5 days a week. Get your free audiobook by visiting thetaoofselfconfidence.com. Well, hello friend. Welcome to the Tao of Self-Confidence, where I share stories of amazing women who have discovered their inner journey to self-confidence. I'm your host today, Sheena Yap Chan. And today's guest, I have a special lady all the way from Singapore. So you can imagine the time difference. It's like 11 a.m. here in Toronto and it's 11 p.m. there in Singapore. So it's pretty cool. She's an entrepreneur. She also has a very successful podcast and her name is Marilyn Wo. So Marilyn, welcome to the show. How are you today? Maybe you can fill in a little bit more about yourself to the listeners.
Hi, Sheena. Thank you so much for having me. Yeah, I'm an entrepreneur and I used to have this graphic design agency and I'm just doing a few gigs nowadays just to, to make ends meet, to hopefully keep my life as flexible as possible. But I grew up involved in many kinds of sports, so-called an adrenaline junkie, and I love to surf. It's just that, in Singapore, you don't have that kind of wave for surfing. So the best place for me right now to do that is in Bali, Indonesia. So over there, the waves are great. Weather is perfect. There's great food, wine and beer, all good there. So dream, of course, is to be there and have much access to that kind of wave for surfing. So that's for me. So it has been a dream since I was 19 and it still has been a dream. Other than that, I've always been involved in this sport called canoe polo, and it could be something that you've probably never heard of. It's quite a new sport. And many people tell me that it's kind of a weird sport to them. And I was in the national team for about 10 years until I had a baby in 2013. Yeah, that's more of what I've been doing so far. Yeah, that's right.
Awesome. Well, Bali is one of the places that I want to check out too. So.
Oh, you haven't been there?
Not yet.
Oh, all right. Yeah, the place is really, really nice. I mean, it's a bit like Thailand, but yeah, similar, but yeah, it's great beach, great wave. So yeah, you should check it out.
Awesome, I can't wait. And what's your cultural background?
Okay, so I was born and bred in Singapore. This place is like a cosmopolitan and multicultural society. Have you been here?
No, my parents have been to Singapore, and they tell me it looks like Toronto. So.
Right. Yeah, it's like a city, island city. So historically, people are mostly immigrants. Like my grandparents were from China, specifically Hainan Island, and we sort of carry a lot of culture of various countries. And our national language is actually Malay, but as predominantly Chinese, our main education and working language is British English. So we kind of mix and match with everything. So most of the time, most of us will speak in this so-called colloquial Singaporean English, and it's better known as Singlish. I'm not sure if you've heard about this from your parents. You'll add something at the end of every sentence, like with a la, L-A-H, or a law, L-O-R. I'm not sure if you've heard of all this, from your parents. So this is what we always use in our daily lives. In terms of English, it's called Singlish. Yeah, it's something that we have been using for a long time. So this is probably due to huge influence from cultures everywhere. Yeah, and religion-wise, I love reading the Bible, but my husband is into Buddhism. So I'm open to Buddhist studies as well. But we don't really talk much about that. But we do share, like Zen practices and all that. Yeah, so this is generally my culture.
Awesome. Well, thanks for sharing that. I didn't even realize, the culture in Singapore. And I love how you said Singlish, because in the Philippines, right, the national language is Tagalog, but a lot of them speak English as well. And then they mix it up and they call it Taglish. So it's pretty funny how when you said Singlish, like it's the same thing in the Philippines. They say Taglish. And, and then my parents speak Fukien. So everything,
cool.
We also end everything in la, like when they speak. So,
I see. Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
Which is pretty cool. And so what is your favorite self-confidence quote?
Okay, I guess there are quite a few. I used to like the famous one by Henry Ford that says, whether you think you can or you can't, you are right. But because sometimes I think that this quote somehow leads to goals. So I actually created my own, and which says you are better off placing your future in your own hands. Maybe I could have read it off somewhere as well, but I'm not sure who said it, originally, but I pretty much like this one. And I feel that this sort of reminds me that anything without my control is not something I should worry about. So this quote sort of tell me, look at my own hands and ask myself, what am I capable of at this moment? And what is possible for me at this moment, rather than to judge. Most of the time, for me, I used to keep judging whether this is bad or this is good. And then I will just reprimand myself when things don't turn out the way I wanted. Yeah, so I pretty much, like this quote. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I like that quote that you mentioned. What was it again?
You are better off placing your future in your own hands.
Awesome. And it's true, right? It's our responsibility if we want a better future, better life, better, if we want freedom, It's always up to us. So, I really love that you mentioned that. And what is your definition of self-confidence?
I guess for me, it's more like self-trust in doing something. And it also depends on our perspective on how we see ourselves in relation to the world, the society, and other people. So it could be relative among our own abilities, or when we compare our abilities with others as well. I've read from this tennis player, Stan Smith. He once said, experience tells you what to do, and confidence allows you to do it. So what he's trying to say, that many people lack that self-confidence and self-esteem, whereby instead of feeling capable and unstoppable, they feel scared and withdrawn due to risk of the unknown. So in my opinion, everyone has this spectrum or a continuum of self-confidence, and our inner and outer environment can sort of affect where it sits on this continuum in maybe random situations. It can be low at one moment and high. Really depending on the situation that happens every moment in our lives. So I think it happens a lot when I was an athlete, because I spent a lot of time training, and self-confidence is really very important when it comes to being selected for the team, because that is usually the first thing that a coach will look for above everything else. Besides talent maybe, but if let's say your talent and everything else is equal, then those who have a better self-confidence will definitely be selected, because they can pick themselves up very quickly from adversity. So that's very important in sports. You're not talking about winning in years, but it's like a matter of seconds. So you need to have that self-trust and pluck yourself up really fast, instead of just dwelling in maybe your mistakes or something that you just cannot control. So in sports, we like to remind ourselves to top up our confidence account, much like an ATM, like topping up our savings account, so that we can sort of withdraw the much needed confidence like money on rainy days. So we sort of do that by reminding ourselves of our past victories and acknowledging our job well done, so that in times of bad games or situations, we can still stay on top of our game.
I like that concept you have, the confidence ATM, the bank. It's pretty cool, because I've heard of terms like energy bank, energy ATM. You save it, right? You build up all this energy so that when you need it, you can use it. So that's a new one that I like, the confidence ATM. So thanks for sharing that. And what was your life like before your discovery of self-confidence?
At the time, I was like super negative, and I was in this bubble of my own. I'm not sure. It's probably due to parenting or something, because, as adults, we have been through good and bad times. So when it comes to our kids, we tend to prevent them from going through what we anticipate may happen. It could be little situations like preventing kids from climbing too high, because as parents, we are afraid they will fall and hurt themselves. So as parents, we tend to discourage such actions. So everything is a no, more no's than yeses. And over long periods of time, many years of you can't do this, you can't do that. Those instructions were just meant to be pure advice of care. But as time goes by, it becomes ingrained as negative thinking in the kids, and as they grow up to become adults. Not that I'm really a good parent, but probably just want to share with you my experience as a parent myself, and how my mom teaches my son now as a grandmother. And I realized that it's instinctive of her to tell him not to touch this and that and climb here and there. He's like really curious and just wants to learn. So in every visit that we make to my mom's place, I think about 90% of the conversation with my son is, oh, you can't do this, you can't do that. But I'm not really blaming her. I'm just pointing out that, being negative for me was a very unconscious mindset for many years. And even as an athlete, I bring some negativity into my way of leading my team and developing myself. So it's really strange, because on the one hand, I love to challenge myself. But at the same time, I hear voices in my head that say that it's tough. This is tough. What you're going to do is tough. that I need more time, that I need more of this, and I can't do this, or everything will definitely fall apart, and so on. And I used to worry more than I should, especially on things I don't have control over, and I really try very hard to control them. So that made me beat myself up for nothing. And most of the time, it happened when I was in my canoe polo team, where I had so much passion for at that time. I expected everyone around me to also have that same level of passion. And when I see negative reactions displayed by my teammates or coaches, and when I didn't feel good about it, most of the time I blame myself for those actions and the poor results that we produce. So I guess lesson that I've learned that is we shouldn't, like sort of blame others for whatever results that ensue, but we shouldn't also blame ourselves for what we couldn't control. So it's like right from the start when I was talking about my favorite quote that we should sort of understand what are the controllable and non-controllable situations or things before making certain expectations or assumptions.
Awesome. Well, thanks for sharing that. And, it's true. I think as Asian cultures, my parents were the same. I think they just, the traditions get passed on. So every time we do something, they're always just, don't do this, don't touch that, be careful, right? So, and they don't know any better, right? It's not like, they were raised by their own parents, and it just, it's like a ripple effect. It just keeps passing on to each generation. So, it's great that you were able to be aware of that and then, pass it on to your children saying, be curious, go out there and do stuff, right? And, they come out of good intentions, right? Which is everything that, our parents do comes out of good intentions, but sometimes they're not conscious about these things and how it can affect children. So, So what was like your aha moment when you realized, you were capable of doing things, you stopped worrying, you became like this awesome athlete, right? What was that time?
Yeah, okay. So even as an athlete, you may think like I've been training my mind, my body to sort of overcome tough challenges. But it's really strange because even though I've been through like 10 years of it, I think it didn't really improve my life in a sense. Don't get me wrong, being involved in sports is definitely a good thing for everyone. We need to be active to a certain extent. But for myself, for my own situation, I was in this tiny bubble. It's like I have this own thinking of my own view of the world, of what is right, and where we are born and what we end up doing in our life is our own fate. This is what I always have been thinking for the past 10 years. And I felt that it's fixed. And what we are given is like a destiny that we can't change. Okay, and that we can only change the journey towards this destiny, which is something that I realized it's not the right thinking. So my aha moment came surprisingly when I actually stopped being an athlete. This is strange, but that's because I had my baby boy and I had to stop training altogether because I had to nurse him and all that. So that's another commitment altogether. So I had to make this option. And because I chose to nurse my baby, I had those, like lull moment when I have to be home with my baby boy. And while he was asleep, most part of the day, I had so much time to think for myself. And, when I was training back in those days, I didn't have much time like that. It was really the whole day of training. And when I'm back at home, it's like I'm tired and I just sleep. So during this lull moment with my baby, it's very strange because I really thought that how thinking more for someone else, like my baby, leads to improvement of my own life more than anything else. Because before my pregnancy, everything was, okay, what can I do to improve my skill? What can I do to contribute to my team? What can I do to be faster? I do a lot of this kind of thinking. But now when I gave that up, I think of more of the why. Like, okay, so why do I need to take care of my baby? Why do I need to provide for him? Why do I need to be more patient? Why do I need to be more positive? Then I think, okay, so my baby boy can also grow up to be more patient, more positive, more aware. Like this kind of effect, you see. So, all this while for so many years of my life, it was all me. And yeah, it was only, with the birth of my baby boy that I had this sudden realization through discovery of myself. Yeah, by reading, by researching. I didn't really read that much before that, but after that, when I had my baby boy, I started to do so much research and so much reading that, lots of personal development, books and all that. So that was, that helped a lot.
Awesome. It's true. Just being in the journey of self-development can really increase, how you see the world and your perception of, what you're capable of. So, I appreciate you sharing that. And, what's your life like now after that realization, after that discovery?
Okay, so immediately after that, I actually felt a little bit miserable. It's strange, but it was true. And yeah, it's a little bit depressed because I was thinking like, oh my goodness, did I just waste like 10 years of my life getting tired with all that training for nothing, right? And so that's why feeling miserable led me to actually also eventually read more books and, go through self-discovery and personal development. So as I've said, I've never searched the internet for so much of personal development resources for my whole life. And for 10 years, all I ever did was wake up and hit the water and off I go to get myself fitter every day. Then at that moment of discovery, I realized I had been doing all that for 10 years to satisfy my self-worth, to make myself feel important. And I mean, I didn't need to, I knew I didn't need anyone to tell me that I'm important, but I needed to reach a point to prove to myself that I'm capable to accomplish what I wanted to achieve. So life sort of took a turn after knowing that what I understood about self-worth or even fighting to win a competition has all been wrong. And it's like during those years of training, there was this understanding, but it wasn't so clear until this discovery. And with this discovery, it made me dig out more books, more blogs, and I decided not to return to training and focus on helping athletes all around the world. So it's like this kind of mission altogether. It's a change of mission. I mean, it's really miserable for me not being able to carry on with the same lifestyle I did for 10 years, because with 10 years of doing the same old thing, it has been like sort of a lifelong habit. So my self-confidence sort of got a dramatic low with this discovery, knowing that I have to leave it behind. But also with this feeling comes that research and with that self-understanding, and that led me to send or intend to send the best messages I can to deliver to millions of athletes out there so that I can help them out the best that I can. So that's when Star Player Academy is born. That is my podcast. So being a podcast show host and entrepreneur really changed my life for the better remarkably.
I love it. I love how you turn something negative into something so positive. Now you have a bigger vision, a bigger why as to like your podcast, right? You want to help as many athletes out there, become better. So, I appreciate that. And, for the woman who's listening to your story, right? She's getting inspired. She's in her own journey as well. What would be that one tip you would give to her?
I don't know if I have one or a few, but sometimes I think it doesn't mean that if you have a low confidence is a bad thing. But if we are clear with what we want and what we are doing, the low confidence may just mean that probably stepping out of our comfort zone into the unknown. And of course, with the unknown, everyone is fearful. I mean, at least for most of us, because that will definitely bring our confidence level down because of the risk and all that. And as women, it's easy to feel less confident because maybe most of us aren't as ego-driven as men. So it's also easy to feel like we are less capable, or most of us just end up getting stepped all over. But we don't have to really feel this way. And one way that I did to get over this is I started to keep a journal and write for at least like 5 to 10 minutes a day. I mean, that really just helped a lot. Just to write 5 to 10 minutes a day about my thoughts and do some self-reflection. And I think people can also learn a lot from this person called Leo Gura. I would like to just share with you the link that you can go to, which is actualize.org. He has awesome loads of personal development content, video podcasts, and that really taught me much more than I can experience. So everyone should just check that out.
Awesome. Well, thank you. And journal writing is very effective, right? It's just, releasing all your thoughts and feelings so you can start receiving new things into your life. So journal writing is one of the best practices to do for every person, even if it is only 5 to 10 minutes. So thanks for that tip. And Marilyn, if the listeners want to get to know a little bit more about you and wants to listen to your podcast, is there any links that we can go to?
You can go to starplayeracademy.com. That's where they can actually listen to the podcast as well. It's all there. And if using that contact form, can just email me anytime.
Awesome. Well, thanks for sharing that. So to the listeners out there, if you want to check out Marilyn's podcast, which is the Star Player Academy, just head on over to thetaoofselfconfidence.com and search for Marilyn's name. Her show notes will pop up along with everything else we talked about. And I want to thank Marilyn for taking the time to share her story with us. So Marilyn, thank you so much. I really appreciate you sharing your story. I especially love that part of the confidence ATM machine. So
thank you so much, Sheena. Thank you so much for having me.
No problem. And to the listeners out there, be on the lookout for another new episode of another amazing woman's journey to self-confidence, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye for now. Thank you for tuning in to another amazing episode of the Tao of Self-Confidence. Subscribe to the Tao of Self-Confidence on iTunes and Stitcher to hear more stories of amazing women finding their inner journey to self-confidence.